Hello and welcome to episode number 20 of No Whining. I hope you're enjoying this journey as we kind of taste our way around the world of wines. Is there any better way to learn than that? I don't think so. So let's get into what we have in store today. The first wine we have up is a 2022 Joseph Drouhin Chablis. This is about a $35 bottle of wine. The grape variety is Chardonnay, or as it is referred to in France as white Burgundy. The region is, of course, Chablis, which is in central France and a 90-minute drive north of the heart of the larger Burgundy region. And unlike the white Burgundies of the Côte de Beaune, Chablis does not tend to age their Chardonnay in oak. Instead, Chablis tend to show higher acidity and a lighter body, with more emphasis on fruit and floral aromas. These prominent characteristics are made possible because it's a cooler climate than it is further south in the heartland of Burgundy, and stainless steel tanks, which are inert, unlike oak, help preserve these characteristics. So the key as you taste this today is to pay attention, close attention to the style of the Chablis versus your typical oaked Chardonnay, especially one that would be from a warmer climate. Now there is a QR code on the back of this bottle that takes you to the tech sheet. These people did it right, for sure. It says, in the 60s, when the Chablis vineyards were all abandoned, Robert Drouhin recognized the potential of this region, which had been ravaged by the phylloxera disease a century before. He was one of the first Burgundy proprietors who set about revitalizing the area. Viticulture. Throughout its 100 hectares or 247 acres estate, Maison Joseph Drouhin has adopted organic viticulture practices since the late 1980s and biodynamic viticulture since the 1990s. Our credo is to provide natural answers to natural problems. All our practices show the greatest respect for the soil, the vine, and the environment. Our deliberately low production yields allow our grapes to reveal the precise expression of each terroir. Vinification. Slow pressing of the whole bunch in a pneumatic press. Again, a pneumatic press is a specific type of a machine for pressing grape juice out of the skins, essentially. Then it says the juice of the last press, right, the last little bit it squeezes out, is separated from the free run juice, which is the earlier pressings. And so if you think about the last pressing is going to be a lot more concentrated, the tannins are going to be sharper and more astringent. It might have some bitterness to it. And if you take a tea bag, like right at the end, and you like squeeze the last little bit of water out into your drink, that's much more concentrated. And so you don't necessarily want that in the wine because it can make it a little bit sour. And so there's a lot of attention being given here to the winemaking process, and there must be, to make really great wines. It goes on to say the juice ferments in stainless steel vats after settling. Aging in stainless steel vats for 7 to 10 months. Again, stainless steel rather than an oak, so that's something to pay attention to there. All right, let's get into this wine. I'm gonna call this a medium yellow or lemon color. Let's try it on the schnoz. I'm certainly getting some citrus from this, right? Like lemon, a little bit of grapefruit. Also, gosh, some notes in here of like green apple, maybe a little bit of quince. Let's go back in for a second glass. The next most prominent sort of notes that I'm getting out of this is like butter and cream. And that is presumably coming from the malolactic fermentation. Again, it's fascinating to look into that process if you're not familiar with it, because, you know, of course, they don't put like butter in wine. So how do they get those creamy notes? How do they distill that down, and how do they impart that into the final product itself? Really fascinating stuff. I would encourage you to check it out. Okay, and I'm going to check out the schnoz once again. Floral. I'm getting some iris, maybe a little bit of honeysuckle, but definitely beeswax, and there's a minerality, like a slate note to it as well. So on the nose, on the schnoz, this is quite complex. I'm liking it so far. Let's see what it does for us on the jaws. First of all, wow, that's good. I've never had a Chablis before, so This is my first experience, if it is yours as well. I'm glad we are in good company. This is wonderful. It's not what I expected. It's like that game you play with yourself, right? Where you've talked to somebody on the phone or you've heard their voice, but you've never seen them and you kind of picture what they must look like. And then it's not what you thought it was going to be. So this was, again, really nice. I'm picking up the citrus again, the floral, getting that beeswax, getting the slate notes. It is, I would say, in body, maybe medium, but I think it's more like medium minus, really high on the acidity, a moderate level of alcohol. It is a dry wine, but gosh, it's really freaking good. One thing I really like about this, it's got this like wonderful silky texture on the jaws, and it's got a really, really complex nose. It's complex on the palate. It's got just great balance and intensity, all the elements you kind of need in a great wine, right? It's got a medium plus finish, I would say, of citrus and stone. So this is a pretty darn outstanding wine, a wonderful way to kick off this episode. I have to pat myself on the back again because this was a bitchin' pick for wines today. All right, let's go into wine number 2. This is a 2019 Pinot Noir, and this is about $45. This is hailing from the region of Los Carneros in California's Napa Valley. Now, this is north of San Francisco and directly north of San Pablo Bay. This area gets plenty of fog and cool weather thanks to the nearby Pacific Ocean. So it's a great place to grow the variety we actually just tasted, Chardonnay, as well as having perhaps the most ideal growing conditions in all of California for Pinot Noir. Now, this exact wine wasn't even listed on Merryvale's website. Boo! So the information to follow is coming from the tech sheet from the most similar Pinot that I could find from the 2023 vintage that outlined a little bit of the winemaking process itself. It said the fruit was hand harvested at night to retain freshness and acidity. Again, another one of those key winemaking and harvesting components. After a 5-day cold soak in tank, the wines began native yeast fermentation. Now that's different than commercial yeast, right, that's sometimes added. Native yeast is going to lead to different flavor qualities than the line. So again, another interesting little tidbit there. It says hand punch downs and minimal pump overs each day, backing off and pressing at dryness. Spontaneous malolactic fermentation completed in barrel. Classic Burgundian approach. All right, well, let's get into this wine, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to call this a medium ruby. It's got a little bit of a garnet rim, and it also appears to be a little bit hazy. So we'll see what that means as we get on to the schnoz and the jaws here. Maybe something and maybe nothing at all. Okay, here we go. Okay. I'm getting, first off, like some ripe red cherry, maybe some overripe raspberry, a little bit of bramble. Let's dip back in. Definitely getting some earthiness here, like truffle, I would say. Also, maybe like roasted hazelnut, a touch of white pepper. All right, let's try it on the jaws and see what we think. Red fruit. For sure. The earth, kind of like those mushroom notes we were talking about, is still present on the palate. What is much more obvious on the palate is some spice notes in here. So that's interesting. This is certainly dry. I would say it's like a medium-bodied wine, medium minus on tannins, but pretty decent acidity, probably medium plus. Alcohol is got to be around like 13.5% is what I would guess. So that's what I'm going to go with. Let's check it. Yeah, 13.5%. There we go. This wine also is freaking great, right? Like, mwah. I have to pat myself on the back. I have done a bomb-ass job of picking out some really good wines. Both of these today are magnificent. I'm not looking forward to picking a winner out of these two because wow, they're both really good. Silky smooth body and tannins on this wine. Incredible complexity and wonderful balance with just amazing integration of the flavors themselves, right? Like everything is just kind of goes together really nicely, and one thing kind of flows to the next. It's not like all these separate constituents. They're integrated really nice into one another, and that's what makes this in large part such a good wine. It's also got like a really long finish, kind of equal parts of fruit, earth, and spice. Wow, two great wines today, so let's bring them in and let's pick a winner. Let's pick a winner, shall we? Which one do you like at home? Which one do you like? Do you favor one over the other? I will tell you that I love both of these. They're really good. Like, these are really good wines. I am going to pick the Pinot. It is by the smallest of margins, but I do think it's actually a superior wine. So I hope you enjoyed both of these today, episode number 20. I will see you back here in episode 21.